Hi everyone, back to more YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. Eddie Howe has spoken. That's right, Eddie Howe has given an interview to BBC Newcastle and various other outlets about his commitment as Newcastle United manager. But did you really believe what he said? There seems to be a very, very difference of opinion in amongst the fan base about this. So Eddie was talking about the speculation with the England job. He was talking about the pre-season plans, a little bit about PSR. So he went through a few different things, and it was quite an interesting interview from Eddie Howe because we're normally used to seeing Eddie quite, off the cuff, kind of freelance, articulate. He doesn't seem to have any kind of regulations or handcuffs on him that a lot of these managers seem to do, but this seemed a little bit different. It seemed almost like it was a bit scripted for him to come out and say something in this interview in that kind of regard. Now, that could be a really cynical view, but there's been so much change behind the scenes in Newcastle, certainly upstairs at the football club. He was very quick to praise the appointment of Paul Mitchell and said he's looking forward to working with him. He obviously talked about how disappointed he was about losing to Elliot Anderson and Nkuba Minteh. Definitely Elliot Anderson, that one definitely seemed like that hurt Eddie Howe because he obviously was a player that he knows the club spent a lot of money on progressing through the ranks, and to lose him is really, really disappointing. So it's clear that Eddie, like the rest of us, thinks FFP and PSR is absolute fucking steaming pile of shit. But going back to the main point, England was the real focus. So I think it was Matthew Raisbeck from the BBC that Eddie normally calls Razor and has a real good bit of banter with. It just seemed a bit more, professional, a bit kind of, panorama style interview, really. This one just didn't seem as relaxed. I've seen some funny jokes about hostage interview from Eddie Howe, but me and Mark were talking about this, as we often do on WhatsApp between each other, about our opinions on this thing, and Mark thinks the message is clear, and I tend to agree with him. The message is clear. This is Eddie Howe saying to the owners that I'm happy to stay, but on my terms. And I think he did subtly get that point across. He used the phrase a couple of times, as long as he's happy. He says he's happy in Newcastle as long as he's able to do the work that he can do and the work that he's been able to do, in the way he's been able to do it. He made that pretty clear a couple of times. He didn't outright say he didn't want the England job. He obviously raised back through those comments at him, and he kind of sideswiped it and dodged it a little bit, like Ginola dancing on Gary Neville in the old 5-0. He did quite well to swerve that one, really. But he did say that his commitment to Newcastle is unwavering. He said he wanted to be manager for years to come. He wants to win a trophy at the football club. So I'm just not really sure what to think about the interview, to be honest with you. I find myself dancing from one side to the other. One side of me, when I first saw a couple of sound bites and clips, was, oh, get in. That's him, ruled himself out of the England job. And then I seen a couple of posts and I thought, don't know about that. And then I went back and watched the bigger interview and I thought, actually, it doesn't really seem to sound like Eddie Howe. That sounds a bit like someone's got a hand up Eddie Howe's arse, like punching Judy down the fucking Blackpool Seafront and making him say these things. And yeah, I'm just not sure how I really feel about it, to be honest with you. Let us know in the comments below how you feel about it. But it's nice that he's come out and he's kind of distanced himself from the England job in a way, to say that he's committed to Newcastle. So that would tell me that he's not outright thrown his hat in the ring to be the England manager. Now, the England manager scenario itself, God knows what the fuck's going to happen with that. I still think Graham Potter is a strong contender, but all of these stories emerging now that maybe Pep Guardiola is ready to step away from City, especially depending on what happens with these charges, and Lee Carsley might keep the seat warm for Pep Guardiola to replace him in 2025. Now, I don't know if Pep wants to be a national manager, whether he's happy still being a club manager. He's done a hell of a lot in club football. He's arguably the most successful club football manager of all time. If you look at his trophy haul, would he want to be a national manager? Would he want to win a trophy for England? Who knows? Would he rather manage his native Spain? I don't know. But it seems for the time being, Eddie Howe has distanced himself from the England job. But there's certainly some frustrations behind the scenes. Raisbeck asked him about we're close in signs, and he said not really, no. And he was quite curt with that. He obviously mentioned as well about the weakness in the outfield position, which I totally agree with Eddie Howe on. Yes, we've signed the goalkeepers. He was quick to point out that 4 players have come in. He said to Raisbeck, yeah, but 2 of them are goalkeepers. So that tells me that wasn't quite really what Eddie Howe was maybe looking to do. He was looking to bring in more outfield players. So this is a very interesting one here. The owners, the new shape, hierarchy at the football club, if you will, with Mehrdad and Amanda moving aside. And yes, that was never really going to happen. They are deal brokers that broke a deal and hung around a bit longer, and maybe we thought they were going to stay another 2 and a bit years, and they've just left a little bit prematurely. But this new head of Newcastle United board, this power team that they have, they have to really back Eddie Howe here now, and they have to be able to deliver some quality players in key positions for him. There's been links to some really good players, besides the fact that some of the Football Manager fan base within us seems to want to write them up before they've even put a shirt on, but that's by the by. There is some good players that have been linked to, like some Malik Chow, like Chiesa, who are good players, experienced, quality players that better the squad, no doubt about that. And Mbeumo's still there in the rumours. Neto hasn't gone away as well, that's in the background. So Newcastle really could do with a couple of real good quality signings, I think, just to steady the nerves a little bit, not just for the fan base, but for Eddie Howe, as it would appear as well in this interview, because he certainly looked like a frustrated figure. I've never seen him like that since he's been here. He seemed to have lost that kind of sparkle in his eye. He seemed to be a little bit cold. And I don't know if it was just obviously an interview with a kind of a methodology, a strategy in place from Eddie Howe, just to give them a little subtle shot across the bows to say, I'm going to say no to England, but you lot need to back me up here, or I might not be hanging around much longer. But let us know in the comments below what you think about the interview from Eddie. Did it calm your nerves? Did it raise more questions? Certainly has set the fan base's tongues wagging and split opinion. But we always like to hear from you guys. Smash a comment in, like and subscribe, help the channel grow. Me and Mark are going to be back this Monday with What's Going On. Set your clocks or hit the notification bell and we'll do it for you. Back with the live show. The season's back. We're back. Looking forward to chatting to you all in the chat 9:30 on Monday. Keep it ever more, guys. Have a better weekend. We'll see you later. Cheers.